Do you have one foot turning out towards the side or one foot dumping in and the other turning out? Chances are it's not a foot issue, but something happening above. Hi, I'm Alex Zephyr, founder of Resilient Training and Rehab, and I've helped thousands of coaches and practitioners get better results with their clients. Let's get into it. In this video, we're going to talk about why one foot may be rolling out to one side where the other one's dumping in, and how that may be something happening above in the hips. We're going to be talking about the mechanics behind it, some assessments, as well as a couple of exercises in order to reinforce the asymmetry side to side. So the first thing we need to do is we need to break down the foot and understand the mechanics of the foot and how this may be the case. So if we see a foot that's turning out or it is rolling to the outside edge of the foot, that is happening because we've got a pelvis that is turning towards that side. So if I take my body and I turn towards the right, what's going to happen is my left foot's going to go in and the right foot is going to turn out. And so when that happens, that's going to put more weight on the outside edge of the foot. We've got a supinated foot, which is the foot that's rolling out on the right side, and we've got a pronated foot, which is a foot that is going, or the arch that is going in towards the ground on the left side. And that's just a natural rotation that happens within the pelvis. The problem is if we maintain this position, it's likely because we are missing some movement at the hip. So if I'm turning my body to the right and I roll on the outside edge of my foot, chances are I'm probably missing hip internal rotation on the right side. Because in order to turn into that side, I should be able to stay on the inside edge of that right foot as I'm turning in. What I don't want to happen is I don't want to laterally shift over towards the right where my hips are going out to the side and everything is rolling out. So my left foot is just completely collapsing inwards and my right foot is dumping out. I don't want that to happen. Instead, I want more of this rotation where I'm shifting into this right hip. And so if I want that to happen, I still need to maintain pressure on the inside edge of the foot. So when we are looking at how somebody's moving or we're looking at how somebody's shifting side to side, one of the most important things to look at is the feet, if they're able to actually create that motion. We can also look at assessments at the hip to determine whether they have the movement to be able to create the foot shape that we're looking for. If I want somebody to be able to stand on one leg or be able to produce force, they need the arch to be able to go down. But if I've got a pelvis that's constantly turning towards the right, and so therefore I'm on the outside edge of the foot, that's not somebody who's going to be able to then turn back towards the left side. So if I have somebody who is going into a cut on the right, and then I try to get them to come out of the cut, they're going to have an easy time going into the cut because they're already turning towards the right. But pushing themselves out of that right side, turning towards the left, that's going to be more difficult. And that's going to have major implications, especially with people who are rotational athletes or just people who want to be able to do things symmetrically on each side. We're not going to have that because we've got a pelvis that is rotating towards the right. And so with these people, you may even see a hip hike on the right side. Maybe they're side bending their rib cage, so you see one shoulder lower than the other. But that's all going to be associated with this rotation. And so when we're looking at the feet, we are looking at what is happening to influence that foot shape. So a foot that's supinated on one side but dumped in on the other, that is a rotational issue. That is not a foot issue. The foot is going to be reacting to what's happening above. When we're thinking about our exercise and our exercise selection and the programming, we need to be thinking about doing things potentially asymmetrically on each side as part of your warm-up so that we can restore some symmetry in the body or some dynamic asymmetry. I'm able to shift side to side so that we can then restore full movement options so that during the resistance training portion, we don't have to create as much asymmetrical programming. Because what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to do 2 reps on one side and 1 rep on the other because there's this misconception of one side being weaker, when the reality is if we can just restore the position by maybe doing some asymmetrical things in your warm-up, we're gonna be able to get more, we're gonna have an easier time programming more symmetrical exercises in the resistance program. So let's talk about 3 exercises that are going to help improve the symmetry within the feet and create more of a rotation back towards the left. So instead of the pelvis facing towards the right, we can face it more straight ahead. So the first exercise is going to be a pal-off press split squat. I really like this exercise because the cable is going to pull you off balance. So again, if we've got this right foot that is rolling out towards the side, we need to reinforce the pronation or the midfoot going on the inside edge of the foot, getting pressure on the inside edge of the foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up in a split squat position, and because the cable is over here, again, it's going to pull me towards the outside edge of the foot. So I'm going to grab the cable with the left hand, pull it across, and push it forward. That is going to reinforce my obliques to be able to not only get the external obliques to turn me towards the left, but the internal obliques to turn me back towards the left. So essentially, this exercise, I'm getting the external obliques to turn my pelvis towards the left, and then these internal obliques to keep me back so I'm not just shifting out towards the side. So, got the cable out here. I'm going to feel the pressure on the inside edge of my foot, and I'm going to push my knee forward as my hip goes straight down. Keep my arms reaching out, chest coming back, and I'm just going to go up and down. The entire time I'm really emphasizing the inside edge of the foot and the inside heel of that right foot. Before I get to the next exercise, if you like this approach of viewing the body from this lens and want to understand how to pick exercises and what exercises you can be using in a program in order to restore some of these asymmetries, then check out my Resilient Lower Body program. It's a 3-phase program with a bunch of exercises that help improve asymmetry and get you actually exercising in more of a symmetrical way. So the second exercise is going to be a lateral lunge with the cable chop. So what we're going to do for this exercise is we're going to stand with our feet outside of hip width apart. The reason for this is that now, because the cable is in line with me, as I pull the cable towards one side, that's going to force me on the inside edge of that right foot, again, trying to get the pronation of the right foot and push me over towards the left. By having the cable in front of me, I now have to shift into my left hip because the cable is going to pull me towards my toes, so I'm going to have to shift back towards my heels. So when I pull the cable down towards the left, it's really going to reinforce that right arch coming down, turning the hips towards the left, and then by pulling the cable down, it's going to really put me into that left heel. Because if I want to get that rotation to the left, I have to turn the hip so that the sit bone on the left side is going to be in line with the left heel. So as I'm pushing off the right foot, I'm going to be wanting to, again, to roll on the outside edge of this left foot. So I have to really plant that inside edge, and then I pull the cable down. So I'm going to inhale here, exhale, I'm going to push off the right foot, and then I'm going to pull the cable down. It's really important that the right foot stays active the whole time because that's going to create the lateral lunge. I don't want you just to shift your weight over. I want you to push yourself over like you're doing a skating stride, and then you're going to pull the cable down. Inhale here, exhale, push. You're doing about 2 sets of about 8 reps. Now, if we're just trying to get that right foot down and turn the pelvis towards the left, I'll do this in a warm-up just towards that left side, just so I'm able, again, to reinforce that pattern. So for the third exercise, we're going to talk about the suitcase carry. I really like this exercise because what it's doing is it's essentially putting you off balance. It's an asymmetrical exercise, so it's going to reinforce some of that asymmetry initially. So for example, if I'm holding the kettlebell on the right side, what that's going to do is going to pull me further on the outside edge of the right foot. Again, assuming that that foot is higher, have a higher arch on that right side. So it's going to pull me further on the outside edge of that right foot. So in order to keep myself from falling over, I have to naturally push my arch down. If I push my arch down, that is going to then allow me to propel to the other side. So I'm able to get that arch to come down, that pronation, that is going to lead to a rotation towards the left. So now every time I take a step with my right foot, because it's pulling me towards the edge of the right foot, I have to reflexively push on the inside edge so I can then push towards the left. So this suitcase carry is going to reinforce foot pronation on the right and a rotation towards the left side. That's why I really like to include this in the warm-up. I actually include this in programming as well, but it's a really effective way in order to restore some of that asymmetry that you may be seeing at the feet, at the hips, and the upper body. So it's important that we start to look at the feet and understand how the feet can integrate with everything that's happening above. That a pelvis that is turning towards the right is going to influence the shape and the pressures of the feet. And when we want to create this more symmetrical training, we need to be able to restore some of those asymmetries, potentially in our warm-up, and by also adding a couple of constraints within our actual program. Because if we can really reinforce, in this case, the inside edge of the right foot and the left heel, we can restore that rotation so the pelvis is facing more straight ahead, so that when I go into the right side, I'm not just rolling on the outside edge, and when I go to the left, I'm able to shift back into that hip so I can reduce tension in the back part of that hip. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, save, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.